Okay, so what is going on right now? We do have two things. We have the engine behind the scenes, under the hood, which actually generate and make predictions and do the entire calculation behind what you write. And what you write is actually in something called IDE. IDE is Integrated Development Environment, which says basically your front end. This is your front end. This is where you actually write your code, and behind the scene there is some kind of engine that can do the calculation for you. In this integrated development environment, it is very easy to work because it involves both markdowns, which actually just a fancy name for documentation, and actually code lines such as print hello nothing. So for example, if you do want to write down a code, you can just press on one of the lines. As you can see here, you have this blue line which says you are in edit mode. Edit mode means that right now, I'm sorry, it's a control mode. Sorry, you are in control mode. Control mode, you actually can navigate across different tabs or different lines. You can add lines on above by pressing A. All right. A. You can add line by pressing B, and it will add just from below. Okay. You can delete line by pressing D, double D. Okay. Double D. You can remove it. As you can see, you do have some kind of it's called cells actually, not lines. You can see, for example, this line that I'm standing on right now, it's a code cell. And if you will move on to the next one, it's markdown. So we do have these two types of cells, markdowns and code. Okay, you can just, let's say, press A, added another cell for code, and we want to replace it to markdown, we can press M.
But what is the difference?
Markdown is actually, when I write something down right here, it will appear as text. And if you do run a code, you just actually try to generate some code, and I don't know, this for example just gave me an error, but we will get to that.
If I want to return it to code mode?
So yeah, so M transforms the cell into markdown, and Y transforms the markdown into code. So for example, I can transform this basic concept into code, but there is no reason to do so, but if we do, we can just press Y. M, replace it back to markdown. Okay, D for removing and so on. And this is not the control mode of the notebooks. We do have control mode and we do have edit mode. By pressing enter, we can just get into to edit mode. And by edit mode, we can basically write code or write markdowns. You actually edit the cell that you are standing on. So escape moves to control and enter moves to edit. Okay. Let's run codes, right? So after you've done editing, enter means you break line, all right? So for example, I have this markdown cell, and I want to write some documentation in this example, and you eventually want to run it and transform this little edit block into actual documentation. You can just press Control and Enter. Control and Enter will transform the edit mode into the markdown or run the specific cell of code. Z stands for Control Z.
We said control what?
Control Enter.
Enter is from edit mode to code.
Control Enter stands for just run your code, run your block, okay? Whether it's markdown or code. So for example, whenever I say just write some kind of code, Control Enter will actually run the code, okay? Whenever I whenever I do it on Markdown mode, on edit on Markdown mode, actually just show it. Okay, so whenever I say you are in control mode and you are in Markdown, make sure you are in the right spot and to understand what we do now. Most of the time we will obviously be on code mode and just edit mode on code mode to just write down codes. So whenever we start a new language, we start programming in a new language, the first thing to do is just write the new program, which is called Hello World. You probably heard of it. In Python, it's very easy. Actually, there are some functions, and we'll get into it, but the first function you want to learn called print, which actually print whatever you say. So for example, here we run our first program, and so feel free to run the following line: print open. By the way, how do you say subrime in English? Parentheses? Parentheses?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so parentheses, and then double quotes or single quote, whatever you want, and write down whatever you want. Okay, A is for creating a new cell, and you should be on control mode to do so. So right now we wrote down some code.
How do we delete? You said D?
In a control mode, double D. By the way, if you don't remember what are the short keys, you can just open up your little command palette, which is located here, and see what is going on. You can see there is the command mode, and well, in edit mode you just write down whatever you need. For example, to move back to command mode, you should press escape, so you will get to command mode.
How did you access that with?
Command palette. Okay, by the way, if you want to figure out on which mode you are in, you can see this little blue line stands for command and green stands for edit. Okay, so for example, right now I'm edit. So whenever I press A, it doesn't create a new cell, it just write down A. Okay, now I'm command, pressing A will create a new cell. So we do have cells, we do have this both modes, and we saw two types of cells. One is the command, and one is the markdown, and one is the code. We do have other, but they are not very important. Basically, they are just variants of code and markdown, but code and markdown are the most important ones. So by coding, we most of the time just assigning some information, some data into variables. And the first thing that we should know about that sign equals. So let's start a new cell. The sign equals stands for assignment. Assignment says whenever is written on the right side will be assigned to the left side. So for example, A equals 3 means that from now on, whenever I say A, it means 3. Okay? So right now, A is equal to 3. Is not equal, 3 is assigned to A. And so, for example, I can do some calculation on top of that, and let's say we also assign 4 to B. We can just now calculate the operation A plus B. Okay? Whenever we run this code and Please remind me, how do we run this code?
Control enter.
Control enter. Whenever we run it, we can see there is a little 7 comma. Obviously 7 is the right answer. 3 plus 4 is 7. As you can see, this is actually what I wrote right here. And you see that the cell actually returns something, okay? So whenever we run a code, by the end of the cell, it actually returns something. In this case, the cell didn't return anything because I didn't ask for any answer. But in this case, I actually asked the cell, I actually asked the model, how much is A plus B? All right.